What do you think allows this little girl named Jong from South Korea to squat 595 pounds like an empty barbell? If you Google top athletes in strength sports, you will see athletes with excess fat mass. For example, Livan Saginashvili in arm sport or Eddie Hall in powerlifting.
But what makes them so strong? Does fat have a direct effect on strength? As usual, I've dug into scientific research to give you the answer to this question. And disclaimer, this video is not a call to gain extra fat. We are only looking at it in the context fat equals or does not equals strength.
Let's remember at least such as well-known athlete Paul Anderson, who was once called the strongest man on earth. He was born in 1932. I remind you that steroids were invented only 2 years earlier and were widely distributed only in 1950. Anderson himself said that he never used them, believe it or not. His close circle of friends, everyone who knew Paul, confirmed his words. So you can see his records on your screens now. The most impressive is the squat of 1199 pounds. And judging by the old photos, there is nothing wrong with his amplitude. Although if it was not, let's face it, a half a ton a normal person will not even take off the rack, and such weight will probably break him in half. But Anderson was not ordinary. Looking through several dozens photos of him, you can say that he definitely had an excess of fat mass, but there was also an excess of muscle. For example, look at his legs in this photo right here. Let me remind you that the weight of the athlete was 359 pounds, with a height of 70 inch. Research conducted in 2018 tells us that more obese people actually have not only more fat mass, but also so-called fat-free mass. This can be either bone structure or internal organs. Such people, by their genetics, weigh more in general and, as a coincidence, have more overall strength. Fat serves as an additional weight, which in one way or another a person constantly carries with him. This fact alone makes it possible to naturally form a muscular corset capable of holding such weight. Therefore, even without training, people with extra fat are stronger than people with normal body weight. For example, the legs involved in walking are naturally much stronger in obese people than in skinny people.
Eddie Hall once said a very powerful phrase that perfectly describes the topic of this video, and it goes like this: weights move weights. And there is no other way to become relatively stronger than to weigh more. And fat mass is no exception.
In addition, fat gives us a lot of extra energy and nutrients while training for muscle mass. For example, classic bodybuilding is connected with a lot of food restrictions to ensure a low percentage of subconscious fat. That is why all athletes who are on low carbohydrates diet have at least 30% drop in strength. Let's look at some real examples. In this video, Chris Bumstead does his record, 405 pounds bench press. It should be taken into account that here Chris is in a deep off-season, which means that his body fat is maximal in relation to his competitive form. And this is a regular pump workout by Julius Maddox, where he presses 584 pounds for 9 reps with pauses. This lifter's fat mass is certainly much higher than Bumstead's, but his relative muscle mass is certainly not less, which only tells us that fat combined with muscle mass is the best combo for maximal strength. In an effort to look spectacular, we 100% sacrifice strength for appearance. I remind you that a healthy percent of fat for men is about 15%, while really lean muscle mass is 6 to 7%. For such results, dietary restrictions are simply necessary. It has also been proven that going below 13% of subconscious fat, you will lose strength with every percentage you lose.
There are also studies proving that low testosterone diet decrease overall testosterone level. Of course, athletes on juice does not care about this information. However, if you train naturally, it's worth keeping in mind.
Now let's go over the non-obvious nuances. For example, did you know that obese people are just psychologically more prone to training with heavy weights? Again, this information is not taken out of nowhere, but has been confirmed by numerous experiments and studies in this field. On the other hand, it is even logical because people tend to do what they do best. Overweight people struggle with cardio, and they are less likely to do calisthenics and more likely to do powerlifting. For example, a few years ago we did a video about Ilya from Mukachevo, a guy who at 16 showed just some unreal strength results. He looked completely ordinary. You could not tell what he was capable of just by looking at him from the outside. But as you can see, it was just like that at all. And as I said, neither cardio nor bodybuilding bodybuilding in the traditional sense attracted Ilya at all, and all because his super strength was lifting weights, and even at such an early age, coming to the gym for the first time, he immediately wanted to do exactly what he did best. Another of non-obvious advantages of obese people is the amplitude of the movements. I think you have noticed many times that with a big belly, for example, it is much easier to do bench press. And although this point does not directly relate to strength, it is still worth keeping in mind when talking about results in strength sports.
But you may say there are also people that's strong but not overweight. For example, powerlifters or arm wrestlers like Oleg Zhokh, about whom I recently made a video.
Remember I showed you how Oleg fought heavyweights and competed in the absolute category. It is true that lightweights can sometimes compete even outside their category, but 99% of the times it is the exception to the rule. When someone shows you how a lightweight, for example, wins someone who is much bigger and heavier, most likely it is either athletes from just different strength disciplines, such as an arm wrestler lightweight versus bodybuilder or powerlifter. Let's remember, for example, the first fight between Schoolboy and Larry Wheels, where the fat kid wins over the big jog. All this surprises only the general audience, which simply does not realize that the specificity of training is the most important factor determining the results, which says what we train that we develop. The second reason of the outcome of such fights is the banal preparation of athletes. Thus a lightweight in a great shape such Oleg Zhokh can certainly defeat someone less ready in the absolute category, but if both athletes are equally prepared, the bigger athlete will of course have the advantage. So it is impossible for Oleg to beat, for example, Livan in his peak condition.
That's why whenever we see something like this, it gets millions of views. For example, the fight between Larry Wheels and Schoolboy got 24 millions of views on YouTube. What do you think, it all fans of arm wrestling?
Of course not, this is banal misunderstanding of people, and the question that tormented them: where did this guy get so much strength? Because in the common people's understanding, muscle equals strength, which is in this case is certainly not true. If you would like to support our project, please check out our membership. It inspires us to keep going and make new videos on this channel. Also, watch this video about Oleg Zhokh and his incredible strength. With you, as always, was Fedor Chepki. See ya!